Hello, Scott here, and welcome to yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. And I am back again in the same day. This should be dropping the same day as the Morkborg unboxing, and primarily because this is something special, something that became available to the public most recently, and I feel it is something that I want to get eyes on as soon as possible for those who are not aware of it. So yes, this is the second unboxing of October 12th, if I get it out on time. But anyways, yes, I don't normally do two videos in one day, but this is a special one. This is one that I've been hearing about for a while. I'm very excited to take a look at for the first time and see if I'm going to add it to such other wonderful things in my library, such as Designer and Dragons, and Dice Men, and other books of the history of our hobby. So without further ado, let's take a look and see what it is that I am talking about. And also, my floating head is not in the bottom corner of the screen, simply because my understanding is the dimensions of this particular book are rather large, and I feel that my giant melon doesn't need to be obscuring part of this book for this particular video. So we'll find out. So no big deal. I don't think anyone misses my giant noggin commenting in the corner. And frankly, I don't know why I do it. It's just, I don't know. I think it's fun to do. And other people do it, and I just want to be accepted. Damn it. I just want to be like all the others. Anyways, so let's go ahead and roll this out. We will toss this aside. And there we are. So, what is it that we have here? Well, for those who are unaware, this is Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground, a guide to tabletop role-playing games from D&D to Mothership by Stu Horvath. And for those who do not know who Stu Horvath is, he is one of the two hosts of the Vintage RPG podcast. Both he and John McGuire do pretty much a weekly podcast where they take a look at, vintage and old school RPGs. They'll highlight one per episode, give some details on it, and some opinions on it, and carry on in that fashion. And they've been doing it for some time now. So, but during that time, apparently Stu has been compiling a bit of history of these RPGs, of these vintage RPGs, and brought it together in a book. And for someone such as myself, who is a giant nerd when it comes to the history of the hobby and is also a collector, this is a double whammy for someone such as myself and for others out there who like to know about the games that they both collect and play, both current and from the past. And also, it is I would say it's almost like an encyclopedia. It seems like it's going to be like an encyclopedia to take a look in here and maybe fill in the gaps of some of the games that you may not have if you're an avid collector. So I'm just going to flip it over here and see what kind of description we have here on the back. All right, well, we've got an in-depth one. So what do we have here? So, when Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson released Dungeons & Dragons in 1974, they created the first role-playing game of all time. Little did they know that their humble box set of 3 small digest-sized booklets would spawn an entire industry practically overnight. In Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground, Stu Horvath explores how the hobby of role-playing games, commonly known as RPGs, blossomed out of an unlikely pop culture phenomenon and became a dominant gaming form by the 2010s. Going far beyond D&D, this heavily illustrated tome covers more than 300 different RPGs that have been published in the last 5 decades. So that's impressive. It's a thick book, so there's an incredible amount of effort brought forth by Stu regarding this book. But we'll take a look and see what that effort provides in just a moment. Monsters, Aliens, and Holes in the Ground features, among other things, bunnies, Ghostbusters, soap operas, criminal bears, space monsters, political intrigue, vampires, romance, and of course, some Dungeons and Dragons. In a decade-by-decade breakdown, Horvath chronicles how RPGs have evolved in the time between their inception and the present day, offering a deep and gratifying glimpse in the hobby that has changed the way we think about games and play. So, Stu Horvath is a writer from New Jersey. He is founder of Unwinnable, an outlet for independent cultural criticism. He also manages the Vintage RPG account on Instagram and co-hosts the Vintage RPG podcast. Yes, definitely check it out. And, of course, there'll be a link in the description in case you aren't already listening. So, let's take a little drink here. So, just first and foremost, the cover. Fantastic. We'll find out who is the artist here, but yes, it's definitely evocative of the hobby. A mixture of things here from we've got a warrior slash dungeon dweller type, a space alien, a what you would consider maybe like a turn of the century Indiana Jones type explorer. We've got some sort of monster crawling out of the depths, along with a little robot. So yes, it kind of, on the cover, gives an idea of everything that's being covered here, aside from the title, from D&D to Mothership, which is, everything. So let's find out who deserves some acknowledgments. All right, let's see here. Original illustrations by Kyle Patterson. So maybe that is Kyle. Original photographs by Stu Horvath. Yes, so if that's Kyle who did the cover, it looks like, yes, it probably is Kyle. Excellent job. Wonderful cover. And it goes in. So we have inside. Let me tell you of the days of high adventure. The Wizard, the famous quote from Conan the Barbarian movie, 1982. All right. Sorry, still dealing with a little allergies here, so I'm going to be wetting my whistle throughout. So yeah, this is a large book and a thick one at that. So, all right. So what do we have here? So going into, we have the introduction from the author itself. I would imagine it's going into his introduction to Dungeons and Dragons, or the hobby itself. And we'll save that for those who want to read that. Quite an in-depth introduction, which is fine. You can read that in detail. Oh, wow. So yes, without question. Sorry, I didn't commit your name to memory, but Kyle Patterson, this is fantastic. Fantastic artwork. This is 70s. So it's different. It looks like it's different years. And okay, yes. And it's divided, as you can see down here, the side of the page and the sides of the pages are color coded. So 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s, and I think looks like it concludes with the 2010s. But you have to pick a stopping point because the 20s aren't over yet. So carrying on. So yeah, the 70s, in which RPGs are born from the embers of war games, identity struggles ensue. As game designers stake out the new frontier, players confront funhouses, starships, and chaotic caves armed with dice, random tables, and evocative mechanics. So yeah, so this wonderful piece of artwork here, I mean, highlights a lot of the thematics of the original intentions of Dungeons and Dragons and other fantasy games from the 70s. Dragons, high adventure, conquest, fighting evils, gaining treasure, gaining experience, and, standing off against insurmountable evils, and so on and so on. Okay, so, and here's the classic white box it starts off with. So, let's see. So it starts off with Dungeons & Dragons in 1974, of course. So that's the starting point, and where he covers the various books. So we've got, what do we have here? We've got 3 pages, 2-column layout in the book, dealing with the introduction of Dungeons and Dragons. And to be fair, I mean, he's going through, he's going year by year, it seems like, which you can only devote so much space to each one of these games. Even in the 70s, quite a few came out, as I'm sure we'll find out here just paging through it. But it does. And if you want more information about Dungeons and Dragons, there's plenty of books focused directly on it. If you need to feed that, if you need to feed that monkey. But so just kind of skimming through it a little bit here. Okay, and interesting. He's got looks like a quote here from James Wallace, creator of The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen, amongst other games. So he is interviewing people in regards to some of these games, it looks like. So then we move on to Tunnels and Trolls in 1975, Bunnies and Burrows, 1976, so then it looks like he has, interesting. So it's not just focusing on the game itself, but I can see by the image here, it also gives reference to the games that eventually evolve into. I do see some names pop up here. I see Dogs in the Vineyard pop up under the Bunnies and Burrows portion, and obviously the Warren, which is had a more modern definition of the game. So, and then Palace of the Vampire Queen, and then on to Blackmoor, City State of the Invincible Overlord. So it looks like as he's going through here, he's referencing the inception of the game, but it looks like he may include, so he does go on to include modern day references of the game as it exists to today. So Goodman Games, who has reissued and added to Metamorphosis Alpha over the years from the original game by oh my god, I'm drawing an absolute blank. Holy shit, I can't believe I'm being an idiot. Well, help me out, Stu. I know it. It's just, I'm getting old and shit will just leave my brain of its own accord. So yes, I'm being yelled at right now by some people. But anyways, yes, James M. Ward, right? James Ward, right? Right. Okay, so carrying on, Traveler 1977, On Guard, and on. So, and again, referencing, that's interesting, Traveler, he's referencing On Guard within Traveler. Okay, yep. And then Teagle Manor, and so on. Okay, so we're not going to go page by page, but we see references to the fantasy trip, the Ardent Grimoire, and another version, and referencing versions of Dungeons and Dragons, chivalry and sorcery, and carrying on and on. So, all right, so interesting. So then he does continue on to reference new versions of it. Yes, so we have Advanced D&D here, the Player's Handbook coming from it. Gamma World, as it came out in 78, to the Gamma World 3rd edition. Does it say here? 2nd edition right there, yes. And here's 3rd edition, yes, that famous cover. RuneQuest, and carrying on the GD and Q series modules. Okay, so interesting. So he's not just referencing the game, it looks like he's referencing historical points within the year. He could have just referenced Dungeons and Dragons and AD&D, but the emergence of these famous modules, the GD and Q series, and so on. Bushido, excellent poll. Dark Tower, yes. So it's a mix. It's a mix of the games themselves, supplemental books and adventures. The Caverns of Thracia, Cults of Prax, and other things. Cults of Terror, Travelers Aid Society Journal. So interesting. So yeah, this is going to be an interesting read. The Coloring Album, 1979. Oh, fun. Snakepipe Hollow. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, this is going to be. I mean, again, for someone who loves the hobby, or the history of the hobby, this is going to be a fantastic read to see what he's referencing, who he has spoken with about it, and and also his point of view on some of these games, which I'm sure has already been stated within the podcast that he does. But I haven't listened to all of the episodes, and I don't know very many people who may have, who are, at least if they remember them all. All right, jumping into the 80s, in which rapid expansion unleashes an explosion of new material, licensed intellectual property ensnares game designers, and narrative-focused adventure reigns supreme. Players delve into bustling cities and intricate worlds as lightweight rules emerge. All right, so we got Into the Labyrinth, the emergence of Greyhawk, and I'm going to be flipping faster. So we got Deities and Demigods. BRP comes out. Call of Cthulhu comes out. And then again, he's referencing, it looks like, at least in imagery, he's referencing the various stages. Berlin, the Wicked City. Excellent. So I'm a bit curious, though. Obviously D&D is the 500-pound gorilla in the room. So yes, it probably should have its own separate entries for editions, which, as we've seen, it has had. But it seems like Call of Cthulhu culminates on just one single entry. I don't know. We'll have to see what happens when we go to the other years, but it does reference the most current starter set here. And so I'm kind of curious why he's done that for some games, but other games, which, granted, Call of Cthulhu in all its iterations is relatively backwards compatible, but people will argue that depending on the editions, even though the essence of the game is there, they could be they're definitely different games as each one has come out, and maybe deserving of their own entry during the decade being referenced. So, anyways, Champions, Thieves World, yep, copy of that there. And carrying on, Kimia Press, and then we got BX. So different iterations of D&D's getting its own reference points through the year. Griffith Mountain, Stormbringer. Busy year for Chaosium, or busy decade, I should say. And flipping through. So, yes, Castlevania 2, the best Castlevania game ever. And I will not harbor any argument against it. Ravenloft. So we have the 83, which is the original introduction of the Ravenloft module, I6. But then it goes on to reference the Ravenloft box set that came out later for second edition. Well, first and second edition. So Harn was 83. Wow, God, it feels like Harn was something that came out much earlier. All right. Sky Realms of Sharoon, 85. And then the inception of the original Masks of Nyarlathotep. I'm getting better at saying that. And on through MERP. All right. The Dragonlance modules. Oh, this might have been one of the last things I bought in high school. Time of the Dragon. It was a whole other world other than the primary world that Dragonlance took place in. Kind of burnt out on Dragonlance as a whole because of all of the different novels and whatnot. And this was an interesting new place to exist within the world of Dragonlance, but not necessarily where the main stories take place. We have Pendragon in 85, and again referencing the newer ones. Oriental Adventures, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and I'm flipping more. GURPS, 86, Phoenix Command. Oh boy, I want to read about that one. Ghostbusters, Star Wars was 87. Jesus Christ. Yes. This box right here is like a cozy comfort cup of hot cocoa. I remember the day that I purchased this box and opened it up, and it It's not the Forgotten Realms of 5e. That's for sure. It was definitely a different world at a different time when this box set came out, and I sorely miss it. I need to pick up a copy of it someday and venture back into the original Forgotten Realms and the first few supplements that came out for it. And Ars Magica, Talislanta, Spelljammer was the game killer for my high school group. It was the last one that we played, and it utterly destroyed our group. Well, that and raging hormones and getting girlfriends, but I still blame Spelljammer. So, but this version is infinitely better than the 5e version of Spelljammer, which is a $70 paperweight, as far as I'm concerned. Again, Shadowrun, I remember getting this box set, opening it up for the first time, and I think it was my first introduction to a game that had cards in it, and really, really wanted to get it to the table, but a lot of my friends were strictly, if it's not fantasy and it's not D&D, they wanted nothing to do with it. And this kind of... So, there we go. That's the 80s. So, moving into the 90s and the looming shadow of the new millennium, the metaplot gains favor amid genre mixing and expanding lore. Game designers explore mature themes, often wrestling with tensions in our world and beyond. On the horizon, the first glimmer of an indie movement shines through the grid. Yeah. So, this was probably the period soon hereafter when our group stopped playing for a while because, we were... school, girlfriends, relationships, and other things. But I continued to buy games during this time. And Torg was definitely one of them. The Nile Empire, I remember that. That was the only supplement I got for it. Then carrying on to Rifts, which is, very similar. Well, not very similar, but in general scope is what Torg was supposed to be. And I know a lot of the... Palladium people may tell me, nope, it's an entirely different game, but fine, whatever. All right, so yeah, we were focusing then in the 90s when we came out with some more Call of Cthulhu supplements. Nightlife, definitely an interesting read. And then the world changed with Vampire the Masquerade, as most people who know the history of the hobby are aware of. And then continuing on with... the AD&D splat books and box sets, and then yes, Dark Sun. This was one that we actually played. We played before our group collapsed, and absolutely loved this setting. Probably my most favorite D&D setting of all time, and probably one of the most favorite settings ever. And then we venture into diceless role playing with Amber. First edition of Cold. Wow, it makes sense. 1991, the 90s, Over the Edge, Fudge, the predecessor to Fate, Earth Dawn, and Carrying On. So, oh yes, Underground, Ray Winninger's Underground, the most 90s cover for an RPG game ever. just weapons and pockets and belt straps and anatomy that doesn't make sense but looks awesome, and so on. All right, Planescape coming up here. Yep, and Carrying On. And I know I'm skipping. Okay, don't want to skip that. One of my favorites, Delta Green, 1997, originating in The Unspeakable Oath. And then again, referencing the current edition here, Unknown Armies, The Extraordinary Adventures of Baron Munchausen. The original one came out in 98. Nobilis, the collector's coffee table book that people are proud to have, but no one seems to play. And then we move into the 2000s. In which a unifying gaming system brings the industry to epic heights only to reduce it to ruins. From the rubble of tumult and transition emerge retro clones, hacks, and the story game movement. Yep. So, third edition and 3.5. We go move into Hero Quest. and then the emergence of sorcerer. And then things started to change. And then Universalis, Inspectors, one I'm not familiar with, so there we go. Fate, Savage Worlds emerges, Dogs in the Vineyard comes out, Castles and Crusades rears its head, Dread makes Jenga fun. And then we've got the emergence of retro clones with Osric 2006, Onward to Labyrinth Lord. Trail of Cthulhu comes out for people who feel making rolls for investigations is pointless. I'm not anti-gumshoe. I just know some people are. And, whatever. You don't have to like everything. There's some things you don't have to enjoy or like. But you don't have to shit on people who do. So, and then it looks like, yes, we're in the 2010s with Kevin Crawford Stars Without Numbers, The Emergence of Apocalypse World and Microscope, Monster Hearts, DCC, my personal favorite, or one of my personal favorites. Quiet Year. I've got this, but I've yet to play it. I need to. Beyond the Wall, excellent game. Mutant Year Zero onto Forbidden Lands, and we begin with the start of Free League emerging and eventually rising to the point where all they need to do is just have an automatic account set up to remove money from people's bank accounts every time something comes out, because they print money with their games. 10 Candles, Black Hack, Tales from the Loop, and on and on. Harlem Unbound comes out. And Honey Heist, Troika, Mothership. Is that where we end? No, we don't. Old School Essentials, 1,000-Year-Old Vampire, Mork Borg, Ultraviolet Grasslands, Electric Bastionland, Goblinville Gazette. That's a fun little zine. Are we talking about zines here? Zines of note, yes. Okay, excellent. Yeah, because, the Zine Quest. Good that they're focusing on that. Inferno Road, The Insectary Visitor's Guide to a Rainy City. So that's it. So, yeah, I mean, from D&D to Mothership, you got to put a name to it. Mothership should have been last, but from D&D to Zines of Note, I don't know. It's still a great title. I'm not sure why he chose Mothership as the end point, but that is fine. I'm not picky about stuff like that. So, and then we have a rather large section here with additional aspects to it. So we've got the acknowledgments here in the back, glossary of terms, which RPG terms. We've got Appendix A, the games. Okay, so just breaking them down for yous. The 90 through the years. And then we got Stu's Appendix N. So what's on his list? We've got Hitchhiker's Guide, the Alien film, the Prydain Chronicles, Inferno, Paul Anderson's Broken Sword. And let's see here. Does anything else stand out? He's quite a large list here, of course. Philip K. Dick, Valis, the Goonies film, the Gate film, yes. The Kroll movie, Wrinkle in Time. All right, so yes, a lot of things here to check out. Some I'm not familiar with, so that's a good thing about any sort of appendix N. I can talk today, or other things like that that they provide for their inspiration, because there's always something new you can find out and go discover what was their muse, and maybe find out why. Annotations, musings, and justifications in no particular order. You can view several of my selections: Inferno, Beowulf, Ars Goetia, Clark Ashton Smith as corrections to Gygax's Appendix N. I'm fairly certain that if Gygax had read the Earthsea books, AD&D would have been a very, very different game. True. I've often lamented that John Bellairs never wrote a follow-up to his adult-geared fantasy novel, The Face in the Frost. At the same time, his young adult horror novels are often overlooked. They are a treasure trove of supernatural forces, quirky magic items, clever puzzles, and spooky atmosphere. I was a bit surprised, but very pleased to discover Mulvey had included them on his list. And on and on and on. And then we've got one more thing. Artists of notes. Oh, excellent. Good job, Stu. Early Masters of Illustration. Edmond Dulac. N.C. Wyeth. Yes. Non-RPG fantasists. Wayne Barlow. Yep. Guy Davis. Gary Chalk. John Higgins. Alan Lee, Mike Mignola, so on. RPG artists of notes. So you're John Blanche, Tom Boxa, Gerald Brom, Clyde Caldwell, of course, Darlene, Gene Day, yes, Jeff Easley, and I'm skipping over here, of course. James Holloway, Janelle Jaquays, Todd Lockwood. And let's see here. Peter Mullen, Errol Otis, Johan Noor, Stephen Pogue, Skull Fungus, Luka Rajic, Simon Stalenhag. He's got an excellent list here. And this is great. I'm glad he included the artists in this book too, or a list of artists to refer to in this book, because a lot of times people aren't aware of it. Sometimes they may not be noted, or they may be difficult to find, and it's definitely they deserve as much appreciation and acknowledgments as do the authors of these games. Carrying on with appendixes, Appendix D, information about dungeons. What is this? Truly great creation that comes out of the RPGs. It must be the idea of the dungeon, not the castle prison, but the chthonic realm of danger and treasure of our shared fantasies. So what is he referring to here? What follows is a brief list of pieces that possibly contribute to a hazy understanding of this world underneath the world. Cave systems, the underworld. Okay, got it. So he's got more things to refer to. What conceivably brings to fruition the idea of the adventuring dungeon, not necessarily the prison. And thoughts on collecting. Oh boy. I'll read that on my own. That may be somewhat of something turning a mirror on myself. So I definitely know that he's a collector. But this, I don't know if this is more lamentations on collecting or thoughts on collecting, but I'll get to that on my own time. And then Appendix F, RPG publishers. And then in credits, Stu Horvath and Kyle Patterson. And again, Kyle Patterson, excellent job on the artwork in here. It's fantastic. And then closing with the index. And is that it? I believe. Yes. That is it. Oof. That's a big old heavy book. So yes, again, personal preference-wise, this looks to be like or the reason why I wanted to present this book, because this is something that is right up my alley, and I know a lot of friends and people out there who are like me may or may not be aware of this. It's hard to say, but it seems to be definitely a book you would want to check out if you're of the same vein. If you are an RPG collector, if you're a fan of the history, or if it's just something that you are starting to get into, it's another wonderful book that seems here that's going to give you a point of reference, a generalized point of reference, but a different point of reference aside from the hyper-focused books that tend to just point the spotlight on D&D, or other things that, such as Diceman, which, focus on the exclusive aspect of, that world of Games Workshop and whatnot. This is a generalization, not unsimilar to Designer and Dragons, but maybe a bit more concise, as they're focusing on certain aspects, not essentially as much details and the dramas therein. That Designers and Dragons is 4 or 5 large volumes. So yeah, a more more of a guide as opposed to the encyclopedia aspects of Designer and Dragons. But definitely, not disparaging that. Designer and Dragons is probably one of my favorite books regarding the history of the hobby that I listen to on audio tape and reread frequently. And this seems like this might be another one. So I'm definitely looking forward to sitting down and spending some time going through this book page by page and reading it. And I'm looking forward to Stu's insights to a variety of these games that I'm aware of, and also seems to be I'm going to be discovering some games that I wasn't. And probably soon thereafter, looking online to see how much some of these games cost, and then being deeply disappointed because of the ridiculous collector's paywalls that are out there. And I will cry and moan and carry on. So this has been yet another completely unprofessional unboxing. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give a like. Please subscribe if you do feel so inclined. And most definitely check out Titterpigs, the tabletop RPG podcast that I do with Keith from Rolling Boxcars, and our most recent episode with Charlie Menzies from Parable Games, talking about his new solo RPG, Do Not Play This Game. More episodes of my channel coming out, continuing on with the, it's pronounced zine. I have some more magazines and zines to focus on, and also more interviews coming soon. Again, thank you for watching. Definitely pick up Stu's book. You can get it anywhere. I'll put some, just about anywhere. Big bookstores, Amazon, directly from the publisher, and other aspects. I will. Stu has his own website promoting this, which has links to it all, so I'll put it in my description. And, have a wonderful day. Take care.